confession time. I ditched Grover as soon as we got to the bus terminal. I know, it was rude, but Grover was freaking me out and looking at me like I was a dead man and muttering, "Why does this always happen?" and "Why does it always have to be 6th grade?" Whenever he got upset, Grover's bladder acted up, so I wasn't surprised when, as soon as we got off the bus, he made me promise to wait for him. Then he made a beeline for the restroom. Instead of waiting, I got my suitcase, slipped outside, and caught the first taxi to Uptown, East 104th and 1st. I told the driver, "Word about my mother before you meet her. Her name is Sally Jackson. She's the best person in the world," which just proves my theory that the best people have the rottenest luck. Her own parents died in a plane crash when she was 5, and she was raised by an uncle who didn't care much about her. She wanted to be a novelist, so she spent high school working to save enough money for college with a good creative writing program. Then her uncle got cancer and she had to quit school her senior year to take care of him. And after he died, she was left with no money, no family, no diploma. The only good break she ever got was meeting my dad. I don't have very many memories of him, just this sort of warm glow, and maybe the barest traces of a smile. My mom doesn't like to talk about him because it makes her sad. She has no pictures. See, they weren't married. She told me he was rich and important and their relationship was a secret. Then one day he set sail across the Atlantic on some important journey and he never came back. Lost at sea, my mom told me. Not dead. Lost at sea. She worked odd jobs, took night classes to get her high school diploma, and raised me on her own. But she never complained or got mad, not even once. But I knew I wasn't an easy kid. Finally, she married Gabe Agliano, who was nice the first 30 seconds we knew him, and then he showed his true colors as a world-class jerk. When I was young, I nicknamed him Smelly Gabe. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. That guy smelled like moldy garlic pizza wrapped in gym shorts. Between the two of us, we made my mom's life pretty hard. The way Smelly Gabe treated her and the way he and I got along, well, when I came home was a good example. I walked into our little apartment, hoping my mom would be home from work. Instead, Smelly Gabe was in the living room playing poker with his buddies. The television blared SPN. Chips and beer cans were strewn all over the carpet. Hardly looking up, he said around his cigar, "So you're home. Where's my mom?" "Working," he said. "You got any cash?" "That was it." "No, welcome back. Good to see you. How has your life been the past 6 months?" Gabe had put on weight. He looked like a tuskless walrus in thrift store clothes. He had about 3 hairs on his head, all combed all over his bald scalp, as if that made him handsome or something. He managed the electronics megamart in Queens, but he stayed home most of the time. I don't know why he hadn't been fired long before. He just kept on collecting paychecks and spending money on cigars that made me nauseous, and beer, of course, always beer. Whenever I was home, he expected me to provide his gambling funds. He called that our guy secret, meaning if I told my mom, he would punch my lights out. "I don't have any cash," I told him. He raised a greasy eyebrow. Gabe could sniff out money like a bloodhound, which was surprising since his own smell should have covered up everything else. Taxi from the bus station, probably paid with the 20, got $6-7 in change. Somebody expects to live under this roof. He ought to carry his own weight. Am I right, Eddie? Eddie, the super of the apartment building, just looked at me with a twinge of sympathy. "Come on, Gabe," he said. "The kids just got here." "Am I right?" Gabe repeated. Eddie scowled into his bowl of pretzels. The other two guys passed gas and harmony. "Fine," I said. I dug a wad of dollars out of my pocket and threw the money on the table. "I hope you lose." "Your poor garden, Bram boy," he shouted after me. "I wouldn't act so snooty." I slammed the door to my room, which wasn't really my room. During the school months, it was Gabe's study. He didn't study anything in there except old car magazines, but he loved shoving stuff in the closet, leaving his muddy boots on my windowsill, and doing his best to make the place smell like his nasty cologne, cigars, and stale beef. I dropped my suitcase on the bed. Home sweet home. Gabe's smell was almost worse than the nightmares about Mrs. Dodds or the sound of the old fruit lady's shears snipping the yarn. But as soon as I thought that, my legs felt weak. I remember Grover's look of panic, how he made me promise I wouldn't go home without him. A sudden chill rolled through me. I felt like someone had gone looking for me, maybe pouncing its way up the stairs with its long, horrible talons. And I heard my mom's voice. "Percy?" She opened my bedroom door and my fears melted. My mother can make me feel good just by walking into the room. Her eyes got a sparkle that changed color in the eyes. Her smile was as warm as a quilt. She got a few gray streaks mixed with her brown hair, but I never think of her as old. When she looks at me, it's like she's seeing all the good things about me, none of the bad. I've never heard her raise her voice or say an unkind word to anyone, not me or Gabe. "Oh, Percy," she hugged me tight. "I can't believe it. You've grown since Christmas." Her red and white blue Sweet on America uniform smelled like the best things in the world. Chocolate licorice and all the other things that she sold at the candy shop, the Grand Central. She brought me a huge bag of free samples the way she always did when I came home. We sat together on the edge of my bed. When I attacked the blueberry shower string, she ran her hand through my hair and demanded to know everything I hadn't put in my letters. She didn't mention anything about my getting expelled. She didn't seem to care about that, but was I okay? Was her little boy doing all right? I told her she was smothering me into layoff and all that, but secretly I was really, really glad to see her. In the other room, Gabe yelled, "Hey, Sally, how's this some bean dip, huh?" I gritted my teeth. My mom's the nicest lady in the world. She should be married to some millionaire, not some jerk like Gabe. For her sake, I tried to sound upbeat at my last days at Yancey. I told her I wasn't too down about the expulsion. I'd lasted almost the whole year this time. I'd made some new friends. I'd done pretty well in Latin, and honestly, the fights hadn't been as bad as the headmaster said. I liked Yancey. I really did. I'd put such a good spin on the year that I almost convinced myself. I started choking up thinking about Grover and Mr. Boner. Even Nancy Bobofit didn't seem so bad. Until the trip to the museum. "What?" my mom asked. Her eyes tugged at my conscience, trying to pull out secrets. "Something scary?" "No, Mom." I felt bad lying. I wanted to tell her about Mrs. Dawes and this 3-year-old ladies with the yard, but I thought that would sound stupid. She pursed her lips at me. She knew I was holding back, but she didn't push me. "I have a surprise for you," she said. "We're going to the beach." My eyes wide. "Monarch?" 3 nights, same cabin. "When?" She smiled. "As soon as I get changed." I couldn't believe it. My mom and I hadn't been to Montauk the last 2 summers because Gabe said there hadn't been enough money. Gabe appeared in the doorway and growled, "Bean dip, Sally? Didn't you hear me?" I wanted to punch him, but I met my mom's eyes and I understood what she was offering me. A deal. Be nice to Gabe for a little while, just for until she's ready to leave for Montauk. And then we would get out of here. "I was on my way, honey," she told Gabe. "We were just talking about the trip." Gabe's eyes got small. "The trip? You mean you were serious about that?" "I knew it," I muttered. "He won't let us go." "Of course he will," my mom said evenly. "Your stepfather's just worried about money, that's all. Besides," she added, "Gabriel won't have to settle for bean dip. I'll make him enough 7-layer dip for the whole weekend. Guacamole, sour cream, the works." Gabe softened a bit. "So this money for your trip, it comes out of your clothes budget, right?" "Yes, honey," my mother said. "And you won't take my car anywhere there and back. We'll be very careful." Gabe scratched his double chin. "Maybe if you hurry with the 7-layer dip, and maybe if the kid apologizes for interrupting my poker game. Maybe if I kick you in your soft spot," I thought, "and make you sing soprano for a week." But my mom's eyes warned me not to make him mad. Why did she put up with this guy? I wanted to scream. Why did she care what he thought? "I'm sorry," I muttered. "I'm really sorry I interrupted your incredibly important poker game. Please go back to it right now." Gabe's eyes narrowed. His tiny brain was trying to detect sarcasm in my statement. "Yeah, whatever." He went back to his game. "Thank you, Percy. Once we get to Montauk, you can tell me more about whatever you've forgotten to tell me, okay?" For a moment, I thought I saw anxiety in her eyes, the same fear I'd seen during Grover during the bus ride, but it was as if my mom, too, felt knowledge chill in the air. But then her smile returned, and I figured I must have been mistaken. She ruffled my hair and went to make Gabe his 7-layer dip. An hour later, we were ready to leave. Gabe took a break from his poker game long enough to watch me lug my mom's bags to the car. He kept griping and groaning about losing her cookie, and more importantly, his 1978 camera for a whole weekend. Not a scratch on the car, brand boy, he warned as I loaded the last bag. Not one little scratch, like I'd be the one driving. I was 12, but that didn't matter to Gabe. If a seagull so much as pooped on his paint job, he'd find a way to blame me. Watching him lumber back to the apartment building, I got so mad I did something I can't explain. As Gabe reached the doorway, I made a hand gesture as I'd seen Grover make on the bus, the sort of warding off evil gesture, a clawed hand over my heart, and then a shoving movement towards Gabe. The screen door slammed shut so hard it whacked him in the butt and sent him flying up the staircase as if he'd been shot from a cannon. Maybe it was just the wind or some freaking accident with hinges, but I didn't stay long enough to find out. I got in the camera and told my mom to step on it. Our rental cabin was on the south shore, way out at the tip of Long Island. It was a little pastel box with a faded curtain, half sunken into the dunes. There was always sand as sheets and spiders in the cabinets, and most of the time the sea was too cold to swim in. I loved the place. We'd been going there since I was a baby. My mom had been going even longer, but she never said exactly, but I knew why the beach was special to her. It was the place where she'd met my dad. As we got closer to Montauk, she seemed to grow younger, years of worry and work disappearing from her face. Her eyes turned the color of the sea. We got there at sunset, opened all the cabin windows, and went through our usual cleaning routine. We walked down to the beach, fed blue corn chips, the seagulls, emotional blue jelly beans, and blue saltwater taffy, and all the other free samples my mom had brought from work. I guess I should explain the blue food. See, Gabe had once told my mom that there was no such thing, but then they had this fight, which seemed like a really small thing at the time, but then ever since then, my mom went out of her way to eat blue. She baked blue birthday cake, she mixed blueberry smoothies, she put blue corn tortilla chips, and brought home blue candy from the shop. This, alongside keeping her maiden name Jackson instead of calling herself Mrs. Ugliano, was proof that she wasn't totally suckered by Gabe. She did have a rebellious streak like me. When it got dark, we made a fire. We roasted hot dogs and marshmallows. Mom told me stories about when she was a kid, back when her parents were before the plane crash. She told me about the book she wanted to write someday when she had enough money to quit the candy shop. Eventually, I got the nerve to ask what was always on my mind whenever we came to Montauk. My father. My mom's eyes went all misty. I figured she would tell me the same thing she always did, but I never got tired of hearing them. He was kind, Percy, tall, handsome, and powerful, but gentle too. You have his black hair, and his green eyes. Mom fished a blue jelly bean out of her candy bag. I wish you could see you, Percy. He would be so proud. I wondered how she could say the world was so great about me, a dyslexic, hyperactive boy with a D+ report card, kicked out of the 6th school in 6 years. How old was I? When he left. She watched the flame. He was only with me for 1 summer. Percy, right here. the speech in the cabin, but he knew me as a baby. No, honey, I was expecting a baby, but he never saw you. He had to leave before you were born. I tried to square with the fact that I remembered something about my father. A warm glow, a smile. I always had assumed that he knew me as a baby. My mom never said it outright, but still, it felt like it must be true now to be told that he'd never seen me. I felt angry at my father. Maybe it was stupid, but I resented him for going on that ocean safari, for not having the guts to marry my mom. He left us, and now we're stuck with smelly game. Are you gonna send me away again? I asked her. To another boarding school? She pulled a marshmallow from the fire. I don't know, honey. Her voice was heavy. I think we'll have to do something because you don't want me around. I regretted the words as soon as they came out. My mom's eyes welled with tears. She took my hand, squeezed tight. Oh, Percy, no. I have to, honey, for your own good. I have to send you away. Her words reminded me of what Mr. Brunner had said, that it was best for me to leave Yancey, because I'm not normal. I said, you say it's a bad thing, Percy, but you don't realize how important you are. I thought Yancey Academy would be far enough away. I thought you'd finally be safe. Safe from what? She met my eyes, and a flood of memories came back to me. All the weird, scary things that ever happened, some of which I'd tried to forget. During the 3rd grade, a man in a black trench coat had stalked me on the playground. When the teachers threatened to call the police, he went away growling, but no one believed me when I told him that was under his broad hat. The man only had one eye right in the middle of his head. Before that, a really early memory. I was in preschool, and my teacher had actually put me down for a nap in a cot that had a snake's litter that into. My mom screamed when she came to pick me up and found me playing with a limp, scaly rope I somehow managed to strangle to death with my meaty toddler hands. In every single school, something creepy had happened, something unsafe, and I was forced to move. I didn't know to tell my mom about the old ladies at the fruit stand and Mrs. Dodds at the art museum, about my weird hallucination that I had sliced my math teacher to dust with a sword, but I couldn't make myself tell her. I had a strange feeling that the news would end our trip to Montauk, and I didn't want that. I tried to keep you as close to me as I could. My mom said they told me it was a mistake, but there was only one other option, Percy. It was the place your father wanted he'd send you, and I just can't stand to do it. My father wanted me to go to a special school. Not a school, she said softly. A summer camp. My head was spinning. Why would my dad, who hadn't even stayed long enough to see me born, would talk to my mom about a summer camp? If it was so important, why hadn't she ever mentioned it before? I'm sorry, Percy, seeing a look in my eyes, but I can't talk about it. I couldn't send you to that place. I mean, it might mean sending you to goodbye for good. For good, but if it's only a summer camp. She turned towards the fire, and I knew from her expression that if I asked her any more questions, she would start to cry. That night I had a dream. It was storming on the beach, and 2 beautiful animals, a horse and an eagle, were trying to kill each other at the edge of the surf. The eagle swooped down and lashed the horse's muzzle with its huge talons. The horse reared up and kicked the eagle's wings. As they fought, the ground rumbled. A monstrous voice chuckled somewhere beneath the earth, goading the animals to fight harder. I ran towards them, knowing I had to stop them from killing each other, but I was running in slow motion. I knew I wouldn't be too late. I saw the eagle dive down and aimed at the horse's wide eyes. I screamed no. I woke with a start. Outside, it was really storming. The kind of storm that cracks trees and blows down houses. There was no horse or eagle on the beach, just lightning making false daylight and 20-foot waves pounding the dudes like an artillery. With the next thunderclap, my mom woke. She sat up, eyes wide, and said, "Hurricane." I knew that was crazy. Long Island never sees hurricanes this early in the summer, but the ocean seemed to have forgotten. Over the roar of the wind, I heard a distant bell, an angry, tortured sound that made my hair stand on end. Then the noise came much closer, like mouths in the sand, a desperate voice, someone yelling, pounding on our cabin door. My mother sprang out of bed in her nightgown and threw open the lock. Grover was framed in the doorway, a backdrop of pouring rain. But he wasn't exactly Grover. Searching all night. Yes. What were you thinking? My mother looked at me in terror, not scared of Grover, but of why you come. Percy, she said, shouting to be heard over the rain. What happened at school? What didn't you tell me? I was frozen, looking at Grover. I couldn't understand what I was seeing. Oh, those yellow Theo, he yelled. It's right behind me. Didn't you tell her? I was too shocked to realize that he just cursed in ancient Greek, and I didn't understand him perfectly. I was too shocked to wonder how Grover got here by himself in the middle of the night, but because Grover didn't have his pants on, and where his legs should be. My mom looked at me sternly and talked in a tone she never used before. Percy, tell me now. I stammered something about the old ladies at the fruit stand and Miss Dodds, and my mom stared at me, her face deathly pale in the flashes of lightning. Get in the car, both of you. Go. Grover ran for the camera, but he wasn't running exactly. He was trotting, shaking his shaggy hindquarters, and suddenly his story about a muscular disorder in his legs finally made sense to me. I understood how he could run so fast and limp while he still walked, because where his feet should be, there were no feet. There were cloven hooves.